So I started doing something called vibe coding. How many of you have heard of vibe coding? No, okay.
Everyone.
Everyone? So this is not normal, I should say. Very good that you know about this, because most of the places where I go and I talk about vibe coding, people just stare at me and say, what are you talking about? What is this? So I started looking into vibe coding, and very fast, within 2-3 weeks, I realized I can do some pretty amazing things with it. And while I'm learning how to do these things, I'm realizing some of the risks and some of the challenges that we might be facing, and just how fast these things are going. So things that used to take me a month, 6 months ago, I can now get done in not just because I learned stuff, but because these AI models are becoming so good. I can do these in a few days. And if you're a well-trained developer and you're in this field, I'm sure that you can do whatever it is that I'm doing in a couple of hours. So I'll give you a few examples of the stuff that I do. The purpose here is for me to share with you what it is that I've learned, maybe initiate a conversation about what is it that we can do with AIs in order to do more for science, to do more in improving the world. Get your thoughts about what kind of directions we can maybe explore together or separately. Whatever it is that wherever you want to take this, I'm happy to go with you. There's no real structure to this. I'll just say my own planning is, so generally the way that I do things in my courses and in my research is mass collaborations, large team science. So for example, 7 years ago, as I joined University of Hong Kong, I was very much into open science, meta research, and all of that. So I decided that everybody that goes through my courses as early as second year undergrad is going to do hands-on science to conduct real replications using real data collection that would lead to publications. So over a course of 7 years, together with undergraduates, we've been able to conduct 150 of these replications in these courses and lead about half of them into a publication. So at the beginning, I was skeptical. What can I do with undergraduates? What can I do with students? What can I do with these mass collaborations? But now that I have experience with this, I also want to take this into a step further. I'm a bit tired of replications and open science meta research. There's only so much that I can talk to people about this. If they're not into it, they're have some disagreements. But I feel like I can leverage, mass mobilize, use large team science in order to take the students in Innsbruck, give them the same kind of skills to do vibe coding, and together we'll develop all kinds of applications together. So instead of me doing, I don't know, talking for 2 hours the entire semester and then giving them multiple choice exam and then them using LLMs in order to fool me into thinking that they wrote it, I thought, let's just use this AI revolution to give them a path and see how far they can go with this. So you're the first group that I talked to about AI. Until now, I've done everything on my own. Basically, that's just like punching the keyboard the way I would myself. So I'm happy to get your thoughts of how to use this. What can we do with this? Before I show you some things, I just want to know if you have any experience with this. Since you know about vibe coding, how many of you have actually done some vibe coding? No, about half of you, or maybe more. Okay. But we do coding, right? To extent, and we can read code, and we feel somewhat comfortable with that. But the things that I'm talking about today is maybe more of the slur type rather than the AI assistant, because I want to give tools to people like my students who came into psychology thinking they're not going to have anything to do with programming or code or statistics and all that, to give them enough of agency for them to be able to go and develop tools that would be solid enough, would be good enough for other people to use on a scale, that would be accurate, that would deliver on things without hallucinating, without doing anything that would seem questionable. So I would like to, maybe we need a different term, but I would like to turn the slur vibe coding into vibe coding as an empowerment of, even if you don't know anything about code and you're scared of code, you can use these AI tools in order to talk to them like a very highly trained human, tell them what it is that you want them to do, and they will deliver big time, so that you can rest assured that whatever it is that they give you is of very high quality. So you can achieve this in many different ways. So one of the ways, for example, that I use is I say, I have no ability to check this AI and its output. It does in a minute something that would take me a month to code, right? So I need a way to validate this. I'm going to use a different AI agent that is not the same. For example, if I coded this with Claude Code, I'm going to use Gemini 3 Pro in order to check what this other one did. So I'm using different AIs with different models in order to cross-check and make sure that I'm getting as high quality as possible from these AIs. Yeah, so I can show you a few of the things that I've done. So can you just share a little bit of what is it that you've used, vibe coding or AI assisted tools? Like, what do you do everyday life with AIs right now in your coding, in your science work?
Mainly assisted coding. So a function, I know what I needed to do. I know the variables I wanted to return. I know the presentation I wanted to do. With a prompt, I can do it, validate that the results are. And so it shortens the work.
Right. So for example, we have an IDE. What do you use? What language do you use?
Python.
Python. Okay, so we have user ID.
Yeah.
Okay, what kind of ID?
Codex.
Codex, great. So okay. So within the IDE, you have the AI ability. So it goes over your code, you give it some instructions, and then you see what it is that it edited, and then you approve. Or
yeah, either that, or I even take it externally to the ChatGPT external of the IDE to tell it I need the function to do this and that. Sometimes I find it more comfortable.
Very good. Okay, so already we know of two ways to use this kind of AI assisted coding, right? So one, and I think this is 99.9% of academics that I meet typically, is that, okay, they're coding something in their, let's say, RStudio. We use R mostly. RStudio, I don't know how to do something, so I'm going to go to ChatGPT. I open the web browser, go to ChatGPT and say, I want to do this and that. It gives me this thing, and then I copy paste it into my ID and try to run it. And then I run it, but it doesn't always run. And then I just take the error and I go back to ChatGPT and I put it there and say, I got this error, what can you do? And it gives me back, and then I go back and forth. I am the person who is like,
do the delivery guy.
yeah, the delivery. I'm not doing any of the thing. I'm just copy pasting between the chats. But you've already mentioned that there's a slightly better way, right, to do this integrated into the IDE. So you now have IDEs that are able to have the AI capabilities within them. Some IDEs are very slow to do this. So for example, RStudio, I don't know why. Still, you need like special plugins, and even then, it's not really smooth. But the ones like Cursor and Codex and all of those are, sorry?
VS Code.
Yeah, VS Code is a very good example for that. They're amazing. I've just been able to integrate this into the IDE. Good. So we have these two. Do you have any other examples of things that you're doing with vibe coding or AI assisted?
For my science, I did quite the same usually with VS Code, and I did ChatGPT Copilot but now I'm doing interviews and home assignment for interviews for job seeking, and I used Claude Code and ChatGPT to build a LLM RAG system. So yeah.
Can you say a little bit more what it does?
Yeah, so this system, you need to put all patients' data, like doctors will put all patients' medical data, and then you need to look in papers and some literature and give a recommendation or like a paper or documented summary of this patient and what do you recommend like a future plan for his medical treatment. And so I asked from Claude Code to plan it, and then I looked at it and also put it in ChatGPT to say, what do you think about it? And change a little bit things, and then I told him to implement it and try to, and I ran between Claude Code to ChatGPT and then myself.
Excellent. So this is already like a very advanced use. I think less than 0.001% of people that I talk to know about how to develop things like that. So you have a need. In this case, you need to input some patient data and to integrate this in a certain way. So you realize I used to do this manually, or I used to have this very awkward system of going between different applications. I want my own application. And I want to be able for this to address some kind of an urgent need. And then I want it not just to input things, but I want it to also be able to analyze this, integrate this, present this to me in a way that would make more sense to me so I can do better research, right? So this is one of the first things that I realized is amazing about these vibe coding tools, is that if I'm missing something in my academic work, or if there's something that exists out there that costs a lot of money for no reason, right? Or if some for-profit publisher took over this and now we can't use this anymore, I can very easily go to vibe coding and just say in plain language, there is this tool out there. Please do as much research as possible. Get all the information about this. And now I want you to create a clone for that. And then I can plan how to execute this. And then I can ask another AI in order to, can you make this better? Go back and forth. And then once I have a good plan that I feel comfortable with, then I launch it. And then it starts building this thing, right? Not everything works on the first run. But after a while, you get to a situation where at least for you locally, it allows you to launch an app that looks exactly like what the other thing was, or the thing that you imagined was, and to deliver for you the kind of value that you need in order to do better science.
Like piracy with extra steps.
Sorry?
Isn't it piracy with extra steps?
Why is it piracy?
Because you take somebody else's intellectual property and you clone it without permission in a way.
I'm not making money off of this thing. I'm not selling it to anybody.
Yeah, but then somebody
else
does sell it.
Yeah. It's okay, but like whatever products you have. Let's say that you have a 3D printer at home and you clone something that somebody did over there. Are you
I'm the right person to say that.
People sell their models. And
Yeah.
you can buy the models.
Right.
many people make something and they just want other people to use, so they upload the STL file for free, so you can.
Exactly. So I think there are ways of doing this. So for personal use, definitely, I don't see any problems with this. We can get into the consideration of what happens when you want to deploy this and you want to try to make money out of this, or when it's very clearly like using the same interface or maybe using even the same services. Definitely a lot of issues there. Plus, all these capabilities from all these AIs were built on a lot of problematic things in the way that they got it to be this impressive. So we definitely need to think about it. So once we move from us using this locally and we want to deploy this, and I'm going to show you some websites that now, after I saw that what I did, what I built is useful for people, I was trying to launch this so other people can use that. Right? So for example, I'll give you an example of a clone that I did. There's a website called ReciteWorks. Anybody familiar? So one of the problems that we have in when we try to submit to publications, I'm typically like the most senior in my team. So they work, they do a bunch of things, and then they give it to me, and I give the feedback, and I check all of that. But then I am the one to submit, and then I'm the one responsible, and then I'm the corresponding and all of that. And many times, especially when I work with undergraduates, I'm very, very worried about a lot of things. Then I'm asking them to use all kinds of tools that are out there in order to check simple things. ReciteWorks checks something very, very simple that maybe if you use Zotero does something like this almost out of the box to make sure that all the citations within the text match all the references at the end. And that all the references at the end, there's nothing that does not appear in text. Seems like a very simple task to do, right? Seems like we don't have a good thing to show our students use that tool, aside from ReciteWorks. Up until 2 or 3 years ago, it was free for academic use, and now it's limited to 5,000 words. It's one of the first things that I did. Like, I want to see whether I can make a clone of that. Very simple. I don't want to use exactly the same functionality. I want to develop a tool that would allow any of my collaborators to check references. So I created for myself, for me to be able to check all the references for my co-authors, something called CitationGuard. And then after a while, I decided, since I'm extracting citations, there's other things that I care about in the open science domain. So for example, I want to make sure that none of these have been retracted. There's no tool, so there's a Zotero plugin, for example, that can check whether something was retracted using Retraction Watch. Other things, I want to see if there's an expression of concern on any of these. Sometimes my students are missing DOIs, and it's a hassle. I need to go to Crossref and copy-paste and then see all the DOI, copy-paste again. I just want it to generate things for me. It's another thing. I don't know if you use this, but increasingly in open science, one of the tools that came out is StatCheck. So you just want to make sure that when you have statistics, it matches the p-value. So the p-value, it just takes the statistics, takes the p-value and makes sure that everything is aligned. So I wanted to see whether I can integrate StatCheck, whether I can integrate also whether the effect sizes were calculated. So once I extract text, I can build more and more functionality. So it started from something very simple, a clone of ReciteWorks, and then I just build more and more capabilities on top of that. Now, the amazing thing that every time somebody comes with the open science community, comes and says, I built an R package to do X, use it. I'm like, terrific. And then I go to vibe coding, and it takes me about 10 minutes to integrate this as another plugin in order to make this work. So I'll show you this citation card. You can try it yourself. One thing that I've learned, and I think when I try to share this with others, is when you move from using something yourself, where everything works, you give it to others, nothing works. Then you realize there's lots of limitations. Things cost money, server costs money, and then there's lots of limitations and all sorts of that. But I'm learning a lot of what it means to deploy these services. So terrific that you're doing this kind of advanced work. Before I begin, anything that you want to share or say before I show you something? Yes, please.
You can make the app image or like a portable app, then it has the dependencies inside, and then you don't need the user's computer to have stuff. So
very good. Yeah. So you definitely have a lot of
that.
Yeah, and actually these are relatively easier to do for many different reasons. So I'll just show you as I was sitting over there, just prepare. I was trying to think, what can I show them? Like, how can I make this useful, and where to start from? So diving into just doing very advanced stuff on developing complete apps. This is a lot of work. Some people are really scared of this, and the first thing that doesn't work, they're just like, forget about this. Vibe coding is not ready. So I just wanted to show you how, with a single prompt, I was able to create an app just like the one that you said that can be delivered to your Android and your Apple. And it took Google Gemini or AI Studio in Google that is open and free, completely free to anybody. You don't need to pay for anything. It took it 100 seconds to create this app. So I'll just share this screen here. It's just, there's somebody online. So I'm just going to share this screen. All right. So this is the prompt that I gave it. Create an app where you link or upload an academic article, and then it processes all the key information from the article and generates an infographic with a box to allow user to change and improve the infographic. So this is the only prompt that I gave in AI Studio. So if you want to use this AI Studio thing, so you just go to AI Studio, Google, and in build, you can already describe your idea. And then Google, I think by now is one of the most advanced, and it's going to get ahead of the others in specific fields. So for example, when it comes to image generation and video generation, the Chinese are kind of coming from behind with their open source, but Gemini is by far doing some of the most remarkable things. So for example, you can have a Nano Banana powered app, which means for advanced image generation. So you can give it engines for you to build tools with the free API of all the capabilities that Google gives you. So you go into here and you say, for example, I don't know, you want to create something with an image. So for example, you want to feed it something, a description, and then it creates an image for you. So you can just describe in plain language what is it that you want to do here. So we'll just go back to what it is. So it thought for like 102 seconds, 32 seconds thought, and then it started building things. And this is real code that you can go over. And it just deployed this. So you can see over here that this is, so I just uploaded a paper that was accepted recently, and I really need an infographic for, and the paper is about visiting stigma attributions. It's a replication of some classic article. And then I ask it, so I fed it here, I pressed generate infographic, and it gave me this very nice image.
Just sure the hand has a weird number of fingers.
Sorry, which hand?
The right one.
Infographic.
Oh, could be, yeah. But the nice thing about this is like you can focus and then remove the hand and then just press this, and then it would like. So the nice thing is like you can back and forth. But this is like a single prompt that you write, and it delivered an app for you. And now the thing that you can do here is that you can very easily share this with others, or deploy, or sync to GitHub, or whatever it is that you want. So let's say that this was valuable. Let's say that it was doing well, and you validated this, and this is a good tool. It's very easy for you to share this with others. How much code do you need to know? Nothing, right? And you can go back and forth. So let's say that you're not happy with any of these things over here. So if I just like reload this, you can see this is what it looks like. So you can either paste the article text or give it a DOI, and I gave it a DOI, and it just generates this infographic. So this is pretty remarkable because up until not too long ago, this was science fiction. Yes.
Eventually, how do you validate this stuff?
Yeah.
There are two limitations. First, validate the code.
Mhm.
Right? If you have some kind of a bug, you don't even know it if you do on large scale, then you put the URL code, and it might have some kind of mistake with it and give you another paper.
Right.
That's the first thing if you don't know any code.
Mhm.
Second, how do you, just to what level do you really trust it to summarize the paper?
Very good. So I think this is just a proof of concept of how easy it is to get from nothing to an app. Now we don't know what the quality of this app is. So I already discussed one way to validate the quality of something, and this is your approach. You can go to a different AI agent and say, this is the code that was generated. So for example, here, I can sync this to GitHub, and then I can go to a different AI agent, in this case, for example, Claude Code. So Claude Code has a web interface where you choose the repository on GitHub. So you link it to a repository, and then you can tell it to continue the same work on the same GitHub repository. So you created something on Gemini, you synced it up to GitHub, you started a new instance with Claude Code Web, you pointed it to the same GitHub, and then you say, please look over this code and look for security issues, look for usability issues. Or you can also go into plan mode and say, this is a good first step, but I don't want these things to ever create something that is impossible, like 6 fingers hands. I really want this to be the best possible. Think of all the edge cases, and let's go through together what this app needs to do in order to get to higher quality. So a good way to start validating these things is you open, without knowing any code and without having any IDE, is opening a few windows together. One is Gemini AI Studio. Another is Claude Code. The third one could be ChatGPT with their codex. And then pointing all of them into the same GitHub and having them check one another on how the code was constructed, and then planning together in order to deliver things. Some things that I want, for example, image generation, video, access to Google search and all that, I'll use Gemini. Claude right now is a little bit ahead with this Opus 4.6 in certain things, definitely in terms of academic accurate things that doesn't hallucinate. And then ChatGPT has, with 5.3 that just came out, has its own capabilities and own thing that it does. But the nice thing is that you can use the different models in order to cross-check and cross-program things. In addition, and the thing that I do, especially before I give this to others, is that you can have agents that rigorously test. So you can have, for example, Claude Code has something called skills or agents. that have specific skills that you want to use. So for example, a tester, say you're now a tester and you need to check all the edge cases of this app, create a script, and then you make sure that you have the script, the criteria for success, and then every time there's a delivery of this app, it runs the script on that in order to ensure that this is accurate. So there's a bunch of things that you can use in order to validate and improve and fix as you go along. But to go from this into a solid app that does infographics is not very difficult. It's actually, I think, like within an hour, you can have the 3 agents check one another and create something that's wonderful. This was created in 2 minutes. Right?
The 2 separate things, right?
Yes.
You can use to check and validate bugs, improvements in the code, and if the edges are well defined, the criteria are well defined, then you can fine tune. I think the point was, on general part, the first goal is harder to define, whether it provides something that,
Okay.
we would look at for any paper that
Yes.
whether do a real summary, provide really good, the actual reference, someone put and provide the graphics that
Right.
everyone thinks that's harder to find and improve.
So this leads me to, and we were discussing this like on the way here, it's like some people say, and I completely understand, we still don't trust AI models. They hallucinate, they create 6 fingers for our hand, they do all sorts of things that we don't know how good the quality is, but I really trust humans. Or let's say, I really trust a subset of the humans in my lab.
I never trust them.
Well,
That's fine. For humans, I check. So
yeah, I'm just saying, in many of the things that I do, like one of the projects that I'll show you after this, is that I run 2 teams. One is my own team with humans in order to try and code things, and then I run AI agent teams in order to do all sorts of things. Forget how long it takes them, because the AI agent is doing an hour what my team does in 3 months. But generally afterwards, you've got these 2 things, and you can look at whether there are some differences and who does higher quality and all that. Lots of papers coming out comparing humans to AI agents, but generally whatever your comfort zone is to reassure you what quality is can be embedded into the system of developing and ensuring that this runs well. Right? But it's good to think about this, because we should never take anything as is for granted when it just comes out of the box like this. So I think both humans and especially AI agents that we know nothing about this black box come up with all sorts of things. And sometimes the nice thing about, I don't know if you've ever seen this, I don't know how much you use ChatGPT but now you can see their reasoning. So when you give them, it used to be that you wrote something and immediately you got an answer. Now you can do extended thinking, or you can track and suddenly you start to see how they're thinking about this, right? Okay, so the user asked me to do this. I think what the user actually means is that. Therefore, I'm going to try and break this apart into, okay, this one. Wait, I think maybe I made a mistake. Okay, I'll go back. No, he didn't mean this. He actually meant that. So this is amazing that we get to see the process of thinking of an AI model. And sometimes, and I've seen this many times, and this is one of the things that I think effective authors are, they're correct being scared about this, is that because this is a black box, these things behave very unexpectedly. And sometimes they behave, and this is the most scary thing, like humans. Because they get angry, they get frustrated, they do things, they take shortcuts in order to try and deliver what they think would be pleasing to you, right? So you need to, in a way, to create a psychology of AI agents in order to try and understand, okay, so there's this alien here that does amazing things, and I need to interact with it in a certain way in order to maximize what I can gain from that. So definitely to be very cautious and to be very, very humble and to use different AI agents to check one another and never take anything for granted. But this is an entity that is capable of thinking, capable of mistakes, capable of heuristics and biases, and therefore we need to know how to interact with it. And this is something that you learn the more that you interact with that. And the prompting that we usually do with ChatGPT or these like very quick things on our mobiles is not the same as in the process of coding. So you need to be very careful about the way that you do things. Just to show you a little bit, so we saw like the web interfaces and how fast you can get. Even if you don't know what an IDE is, if you don't know anything about code, you can use AI Studio from Google and Claude Code Web in order to get these things done. Now, I want to talk about like IDEs. So if you want to be a little bit more advanced, then you go to an IDE. Now, the thing that I think puts many people off, even academics, if they're not advanced with this, is that when I was growing up, I lived through the era of DOS and a terminal and I'm familiar with Linux and how to use, a command prompt and a shell many people are not, right? But Claude Code was one of the first to say that the Claude Code is going to run on the terminal. So many of these codes, so CLI, it runs in a terminal. And everything that we see, I think also Python runs in a terminal, R runs on a terminal, and then you have an IDE that basically tries to hide the terminal from you and give you like a nice interface for you to be able to get stuff done. But actually, a lot of things, when it comes down to it, just run in the terminal. So Claude Code was the first to really do this. Now you have Open Code and you have Gemini and you have all these CLIs that run in the terminal. And all these IDEs try to hide this from you, but eventually they all run on terminal. They all run with this DOS Linux kind of commands. So two that I recommend and I have a lot of experience with. One is Cursor, and Cursor has its own. What's that?
I'm using that.
Yeah. Okay. So Cursor. Yeah. So for each one of those, I personally pay out of my pocket $20 each, but it like pays back many folds. The nice thing about Cursor, and the reason why this was the first that I used, is that it has its own AI agent, which does okay, but it also allows you to interface with all the other AI agents. And actually, it also allows you to move between these agents and hide from you which agent it's actually using. So this is what it looks like. It's a little bit small, but I opened it on one of the directories. So this directory here is the Meta Core Coding. You can see it has simple things like R Markdown code. That you can, if you want, you can knit this or you can run this. The terminal is hiding over here. So for example, if I'm going to run any kind of command, so for example, if I run this, then it's just gonna open the R down below and it's just gonna run the command that I gave it. So basically, this is an IDE that runs R. It knows automatically that this is R because I opened a folder in my computer that runs R. Now, what's interesting about these IDEs, and the reason why we need to be very, very careful with these things, is that they have permissions to modify files in your computer. So when you open a folder and you give it a direction to say, okay, for example, open a folder, a new window, let's open a new window. Every project is basically a folder. So you can see that I have different projects about different things that I've done, but to open a project is basically to say, this is the directory on my computer. I do like Vibe. So under this, we had something like, I did like a workshop demo. So I'm going to open workshop demo. I'm going to point this to workshop demo, and then I can start working on this. Now, what this essentially means is that right now Cursor has the ability to modify things in that folder. It can run things for me. So for example, if I open on the terminal and everything is in the terminal, so for example, I can open Claude. So this is Claude Code. So you can see what it does is basically run something in the terminal in order to bring me some kind of an interface. This is what Claude Code looks like. So it looks like the old Unix ASCII kind of like interface over here. And now it has all kinds of permissions for this folder. So for example, I can tell it like create a file that does hello world in R, okay, something like that. And then what it would do, it would actually access that folder and it would create that that thing for me. So that's like an interesting thing about this. What you need to understand is that every time you ask it a kind of task that requires going outside of the folder, it will ask you, am I allowed to do this or not? And you can say yes for right now or whitelist this. But generally, and this is very different from the web interface, it has access to your computer. It can read your files, it can modify them. And we trust Claude or Cursor or whatever it is that you're running for it not to do horrible things to your computer. But that also has a promise because it can do amazing things to your computer. So for example, if you have a bunch of code that you've already written, it can analyze all that for you. So one of the things, for example, that I do with my students, they like to write R, but they don't know what R Markdown is. They don't know what Quartor is. So basically I said, go through all the R, integrate this into one R Markdown, make sure that everything is accurate, add comments if there's no comments, and then knit this in order to make sure that this really transforms into an HTML. So you can see what it did over here. It says, I'll create a simple script. I'll do a hello world in R, and you can go over here and on the top, you can see in an idea that this is what it did, print hello world. But it created a file in your computer, right? And then you can tell it all sorts of things. So for example, you can delete files. So delete the hello So if you want to reference a file, you just do this hello world.
Sorry, is this specific to cursor? Other...
So this is Claude. I didn't even show you cursor. This is now in the terminal. This is Claude. Okay. All of them work this way.
You can all access.
Yeah. So right. So right now, I open cursor in a certain folder. Within that folder, I launch Claude, and then I'm telling Claude to do all sorts of things. So it's trying to understand what it is that I wanted. It's reading it, and then it's deleting this, right? So it's running this and doing all sorts of.
You don't have to do it like that. You can just from the agent mode, it will do the same thing.
Yeah, this is Claude Code. This is just showing you this is how Claude Code works.
Also, you need to have a license.
Right. Yeah. It costs money. Right.
All the ones that are
Advanced.
like ID.
Yeah. So the advanced ones. So definitely, I just want to say, cursor. If you pay for cursor, $20, you get the cursor agent. And in addition, you get access to a lot of different models. I'm showing you Claude first.
Within the ID, you can use it as the.
Within the ID.
I mean, you can, because with students, you can register to Copilot with the student card and get for 2 years or something, ID Copilot.
Right.
Copilot, not of Torso.
No, Copilot that you can put it also.
This thing is just very, very
Very
convenient.
Yeah. So
Too convenient.
if we understand that this is how Claude works, and this looks a little bit awkward, and we don't like the terminal, that's where the IDEs come into play, and cursor takes all that away from you. So if you go over here and we start a new chat, this is a new chat, you can specify what is it that you want the AI to do and which AI you want to be working. So here you see it's on auto, but if you click on the auto and you disable the auto, you'll see that you can choose from Composer, which is the cursor AI model. It's so-so, but it's good for some very simple things. But if you want to run Claude Opus 4.5, 4.6 and all this, it already comes with a certain amount of credits for that. Now, depending on the model, Opus 4.6 is very, very demanding, so you're going to run out of credits very, very fast. So you can decide what kind of model you want. If you want cursor to decide for you, you just tell it to do auto. Right? But all of the things that I did over here, you can actually do the same kind of thing in the IDE. So I can just ask it over here without all this ugly interface and all that to give me all of, and the nice thing about cursor is also it gives you a very nice interface for what it is that it's doing. Another thing that it's doing, it's asking you if you want to review this. So you can review the changes and you can undo this or keep this. So let's say that you already have an existing project and you're worried that the AI models are going to do something that you're going to regret, and you want to approve each one of those, and you can review all of those, and it will open these things and it will show you the different changes that it's doing. Okay? Yes, please.
It's a slightly better way. You don't sign the Git sign. You can click it, and it creates a Git repository, and then you can version track, and then if it fucks up, you can go back.
Exactly, and this is like the recommended way. Generally, version control is very, very important. Cursor and Claude Code will maintain a local Git, which is a kind of a small version.
It doesn't work on
right, exactly. So there's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration, but definitely when you're developing, it's always good to interface with GitHub, and then you can do all sorts of advanced things like the way that you interact with the GitHub. But as a first step, what you can see here is that it allows you to review the changes that you're doing. Here, I wasn't asked anything. It just created this thing for me. Here, you already have some kind of an advanced thing. Now, AI agents are very, very clever, but they could be misaligned with what is it that you actually wanted to do. So a lot of people, what they do is that they go, I don't know, ChatGPT and say, I want to create this, input patients into something, create a plan for me. And then they take this plan, and then they put this into Cursor and say, Cursor, this is the plan that came from ChatGPT, execute this for me. You can do this two-step, but you can also do this here. How do you do this? You have something called
Sorry, I missed something. How does it solve misalignment?
Yeah, so you do a plan mode. So instead of here agent, you have 3 additional modes: plan, debug, and ask. So you can switch to plan and say, before you do anything, do not touch anything. I want you to plan together with me how we're going to execute this. So for example, if I go back to the prompt that we did with to build this academic thing, so I just want to take all of this infographic and I go here. Yeah. So I'm in plan mode, and if I do this here, then it will, instead of directly going to do this, it's thinking what needs to be done, and then it's creating this kind of plan. And usually this is in R Markdown, not R, just Markdown files.md, which you can review. And then you can highlight different sections of the plan and say, this is not what I meant, please fix this. So you go back and forth with this thing. You can direct it to specific sections of the plan and then say, please work on this. And once you're ready, you can just launch it and say, approve, please proceed with this. Usually the way that I do, because the good models like Opus 4.6 are very, very advanced and they're very, very good at planning and thinking, but they're also very expensive. So typically what I do is I do the planning stages with these expensive models. And then to execute and do all the actual development, I give it to a cursor, or I give it to some of the lower models like Claude Haiku that are much less expensive. One of the things that you'll see in the plan mode is that it asks you questions. So, okay, it needs some clarification. So what type of app do you want? A web app or a desktop app, or what is it that you need? You can say, I want a web app. What kind of infographic structure, the AI generated? And then it thinks about this, it asks you some back and forth. You can tell it if you want more prompting or less prompting, or if you want just like to create a plan. And then once it's got the plan, it's going to open this for you, and then you can just say, like, approve. Okay, this is like the very basics of how to use the IDE. So this is a cursor. The second IDE that I use, which I find a little bit more frustrating because there's still some bugs in there, is called AntiGravity. And AntiGravity, just out of the box, it's from Google, and Google gives a very generous AI usage. So Claude costs money, Cursor costs money, but Google gives you very good usage. And AntiGravity is improving very, very fast. It's catching up with Cursor. It's doing a bunch of things. And here as well, you'll see that there is a fast mode and planning mode, and also not just the Gemini models, but also the Claude models are in there, and the GPT CSS. So even AntiGravity out of the box allows you to use some of the best models in order to get stuff done. Also, AntiGravity has really cool plugins in order to get you to do things a little bit more efficiently. So you can see like there's a bunch of things that are running in the background. So for example, AntiGravity Plus tells me how much I've used of Claude and how much I've used of Gemini. And it tells me whether I should auto accept, just let the AI run, or you want to approve in each and every step. So these are the two tools that I use for different usages, but these are the ways where you can get to deploy an app very fast. So there are a few ways to interface with different services. One of the ways, it's a little bit more advanced, I was going to get to this at the end, but something called an MCP. So there's an MCP that you're able to, for example, if we go here, and there's tools and MCPs, so you can see there's like a bunch of MCPs that I use in other, and one of them is like GitHub or Notebook LM. So for example, it can interface with Notebook LM. So for example, one of the things is that you need a repository of a lot of articles. Notebook LM is amazing for having a lot of resources, YouTube, articles, whatever. So you can upload all of this as a storage, as a repository of everything that you need in a project, upload this to Notebook LM, and then use the MCP here in Notebook LM in order to execute things from the IDE in Notebook LM. So if there's something that is provided as a service, has an API, has an MCP, then definitely the IDEs can integrate with this and activate this.
Through the Notebook.
Through an MCP to Notebook LM. So in this case, I want to use Notebook LM. There's also like GitHub. So if I need something from GitHub, or if I need something from Render or Supabase or any other services that I need, there's an MCP typically for that. Right? So this is one of the ways that you can.
MCP of stuff that other people wrote and uploaded to GitHub, and then you like install them, right? So how do you know how to trust an MCP? Because I was looking for something for Zotero, and I found something, but I don't know, like if they have like malicious code in it or something like that. Like, how do you know?
Having the MCPs from the service.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Very good. Generally, in everything that you do here, you need to ask yourself very, very carefully, like, what is it that I trust and what is it that I don't trust? Like, generally, we have a lot of things on GitHub, right? And we have a lot of things that are out there that maybe have some kind of malicious code. One of the things that you can do is have the actual agent check that for you. Or you can use online reviews, whatever it is that you need in order to establish trust for yourself. But definitely don't just install any plugin. So there's lots of plugins here for this on Cursor, especially on AntiGravity. Lots of plugins, lots of MCPs, lots of things to extend capabilities. You need to be very, very careful what it is that because somebody can get in the middle and extract all sorts of things. I use, so there's like a community of people who do vibe coding and people who have tested things and have verified things. So if I see something has been verified by people who I trust, then I feel comfortable enough. But whatever your criteria is, just come up with.
But aren't the MCPs official too? Or aren't there like GitHub does the MCP and you can get it from there?
Yes, GitHub, Render, Vercel, Supabase, all of those definitely. But Notebook LM is a good example where Google said, we don't want to provide an MCP for this. So the community build something together. Actually, many of the MCPs were developed using vibe coding. So it's just, okay, AI, go and learn what the API is and create an MCP for us so that we can interface with that. And one of the nice things when you have this vibe coding and you have these GitHubs, is that you can see all the stress testing and the security issues and all the things that they've done in order to validate this. But yeah, definitely need to be careful, and we can definitely integrate with a lot of different things. So this is just to like get you started on this. So there's lots of things that you can do with this. I'll just show you some of the if anything that you want to ask before I go ahead. Yes, please.
The convenient thing.
Yeah.
If you work with like a directory,
Yes.
one thing that this cursor likes to do is you have to tell it many times to do the same thing. Like there's a default way of it producing code. For instance, defensive checks, ifs on anything, and so just so it runs. Doesn't matter if it outputs anything or whatnot. So what I do is I have a coding preferences markdown file, which has all the things that I don't like it doing or like it doing graphics wise and like coding wise and stuff. So I tell them before it interacts with anything, it has to read the thing and only then goes. So that is slightly more convenient.
Excellent. That's a very advanced usage of this. I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah.
Also, the first thing you showed, the infographic thing, I made Cursor do something like that, but instead of an infographic, it takes a paper, produces a markdown file with like the general idea, general methods. I mean, before I decide that I want to read the paper like in details, I want to see an overview. So it makes a markdown file with an overviews, and it's very convenient because Cursor does that. You just take the PDF of the paper, throw it in, so it doesn't hallucinate stuff from the web or stuff like that. Just reads the PDF and summarizes it. So it's very nice.
Very good. So these are also very advanced, relatively advanced usage of AIs. I was about to build on the first one that you just said. So after a while, so this is blank projects, write a hello world for me. And it doesn't know how I want my R to look or my Python or anything else, but I can give it my own style and I can give it all kinds of directions. And if I want high quality to begin with, I can tell it all sorts of things to do and not to do. Different environments have different ways of doing this. Claude Code has a Claude Code file. Cursor has a Cursor file. But generally, the standard seems to be coming together to use something called AGENTS.MD. So I'll just show you what this looks like. So this is AGENTS.MD. And here, what you can see here is that you give it some directives. Before you do any kind of coding, you have to read this. So for example, you are a senior engineer, so you need to know how to prompt these things. Don't just look at this as somebody who's doing nothing. You're a senior engineer. Don't just fix things, but look at the deep root causes, optimize your correct surface risks, trade-offs, and so forth. Have a lessons.md, so every time you realize you made a mistake or you're fixing something, maintain another file called lessons.md in order to do things. Hard rules: never do the following, never hard code secrets, never do all sorts of other things. Always validate the configuration, always handle success and failure path. So you can, as you're becoming better at this, you can give it more direction of what it is that you need in order to ensure quality and to have your own style in it. Generally, you want the AGENTS.MD to be very concise. So typically what we do is, for a certain kind of task, we tell it, if you encounter this kind of task, go and read this to a different document. So for example, if you're developing a web app, go and read lessons for a web app. Why do we need all these things? Because one of the things that we need to understand when we're dealing with AIs is just like humans, they have limited capacity for memory. So one of the very annoying things that happen is that you go through a whole session, you develop amazing things with the AI, and then at some point, it says ran out of context, compacting context, and then it tries to find in the conversation all the things that were the most important, and then it just deletes everything else and it starts from scratch. And then sometimes it deletes things that are very, very important. So you want to manage this memory, working memory that the AI has. So generally, every time you load a document, every time you give it an MCP, every time you load a skill, it limits the context that you have because the context is only so much. So you need to be careful that the document, so for example, like AGENTS.MD, is smaller in size. And if it needs something else, then it goes to another file and loads that. But you need to manage context. This is one of the limitations of these things. One of the nice things about Gemini is that the context is very, very large. So you almost don't have to worry about this. But with Claude, with Cursor, so forth, you need to think about this, but they're becoming better and better at this. So for example, now when you ask Claude to do a bunch of things, what it does is it spawns different agents. So it creates a new agent, gives it a new context, says, this is your task, go and do this, report to me when you're done, a bunch of agents, and then this is how it maintains so that there's one central context, so it doesn't lose the working memory. But this is all advanced stuff once you start working with these kinds of things. Okay? Somebody else? Yes?
How to avoid bias? Because if I give one paper to two different scientists in the same way, they will give me different summary. One scientist will say, this is most important, the second will, this is most important, and how can I avoid this bias?
How do you avoid it with humans?
Because if I ask what's the most important things in this paper, and should I try different models and compare, or
Yeah.
I mentioned when I ask GPT something time by time, they it adapts for my questions and give me some answers which I wanted to take, and how to avoid this bias, I don't know, because when I was a child in science, I just said to my PI, I think this is will be important, and in the future, he said, this is not important, and will not be important in the future. And
Yeah, I think this goes beyond the coding, the vibe coding. Is how we interact with these AI and how do we get them to do a certain goal. And in your case, the goal is I want this to be accurate. I want this to be factual. I want this to be scientific. You know, a while ago, I was talking to my friend and say, ChatGPT is very helpful for me, Grok and all the others are doing remarkable things. And my friend was just like, my AI hates me. Why does your AI hate you? And he says, no, let me show you. I'm asking you a question. And then it's just the most cynical, sarcastic kind of reply that the AI did. I was very surprised at this. So I went into the settings, and it seems like the kid, my friend's kid, moved the setting of ChatGPT to cynical. So, and of course, now, most people don't know this, but actually in the settings for almost every AI models, you can give it yourself. So you can have like a basic prompt for what is it that you expect the AI to do for you. So for example, if you really care about accuracy, if you really care about avoiding bias, you can say things like, I only want you to be based on the most recent scientific meta research that's been done on the topic. If you see that I might be doing some mistakes, question me and let me know about this. And if you have this in your default prompt in whatever AI model, just like moving to a cynical mode, you will move yourself into a scientific mode, right? So then when you start chatting with this thing, you will first read the first prompt and understand that this is the thing that you care about. And you can try this by yourself, but try to do something that it seems biased in some way, and it will challenge you. So it is very much about how we interact with it and what kind of rules we want it to do for us, what kind of goals we communicate to this thing. If the only thing that you want is to be pleased, it will please you, right? If the only thing that you want is to be scientific, it will help you be scientific. It will not be perfect, but much better than just trying to please you with your own bias. But generally, this is what an AGENTS.MD does. It moves you. So for example, if you really care about science and accuracy and all that, put this into your agents. So for example, one of the skills that I have, because I do a lot of meta-analysis coding, and this is the next project that I give you. I don't know how much time we have, but this is perhaps the one thing that I wanted to show you. I created a skill that is a meta-coder, where I only want things to be based on facts. And not only does this coder checks itself with other sub-agents, spawns agents in order to check that what it does is accurate, but also for every decision that it does, it gives you all of the context. So for example, if it extracted an effect size, it doesn't just tell you Cohen's d is 0.5, right? It tells you, I went to the page number this, and this is the paragraph where I took this up, and I identified this as being the important key information. And out of that, I created this R code in order to calculate the effect size, and this is the output that I got from the R code, and therefore my conclusion is this is the effect size. And then what I do with this is that not only do I go over what it is that it coded at the end, but I also go through the process. So I do this a bunch of times, and I have AI agents checking each other. And when they disagree on this, they bring this up to me. And then I say, okay, this AI agent is right, this is wrong, and this is why. Improve your own prompts in order so that next time you'll know how to handle the situation. Yeah. So this is the one project that started this whole thing, and this is called the core coding. So we have this 150 replications that we did. Where did I put this? Yeah. So we have a team of like 50 different article researchers from around the world, and they've helped me do replications. So the way that I've done replications with my students is that we've done replications in thesis and in coursework. And then I invite people from the Twitter X Blue Sky community and say to them, all of our stuff is on this Google Doc, on this GitHub, and come and give us some feedback. And then just the community, out of their goodness of their hearts, and sometimes the original authors whose work we replicated, came in and gave the students some feedback. And at the end of the semester, or at the end of the academic year, we had APA-style submission-ready manuscripts detailing everything, including the data collection and the results of a replication of a classic article. So I've done this for 7 years, and we've had 150 of these replications. The problem was that this is a very, very large-scale project, and every one of these replications had a different design. Some of them were between subject design, within subject design, a mixed design. Some of them are correlational, some of them are experimental, some of them are different times, large data collection over time. And then I needed a way to code all of these together into one place, because I want to do one overall study to communicate in some wide audience journal. But this is what we've done. And to show people, if we've done this in Hong Kong with undergraduates, you can do this yourself. This is how we improve science. We revisit, we see whether the classics replicate or not. If they don't replicate, what is it that we found? And this is also how we train the next generation in order to do better science. The problem was, when I tried to look at all these 150, I recruited 6 coders, and they were unable. So we got, after a year, we got to coding 100, I don't know, 200. We stopped at like 226. And even then, you'll see that a lot of the coding was very, very, like a lot of missing things. And even though I told them, just like I told the AGENTS.MD, just like I told the AIs, you validate things, so you go and you copy paste where you get this from and which page this is. I really gave my coders as much information as possible about what is it that I want for this to be reproducible. And it's messy, because different humans do different work. And at the end, there is something here. But after a year, we had a meeting, and they're just like, this is way too much time, and we're not sure that what we're doing is correct, because when we go over somebody else's work, then we realize there's some mistakes in there, and we don't know how to work on this. So what I did is that I decided to create an app, a little bit like what you did. And I said, I want to see whether I can use these AI agents in order to code 150 replications and to do this well. And the way that I did this is that I pivoted, contrasted different AI models. At the beginning, just with a very simple prompt. The simple prompt is process this article, this PDF, extract all this information. And all this information is all the stuff that you will see here. So I wanted to know which article this is, what is the reference, what is the journal, what year was it published, where is the pre-registration, what is the experimental design, how many experiments, all the DVs, all the IVs. It's really a lot of different designs with many studies in each article and many data collections per each study. So very complicated stuff. And the amazing thing is that after a bunch of contrasting between different AI models, where I did this thing, try to fill this for me, and then seeing the disagreements between them, and validating 5 different records where I ensure that they do good work, they improved their own prompts, and at the end, after 3 hours of back and forth with all this, Opus 4.5, based on one prompt that was the ideal prompt, I was able to get to no mistakes. At the beginning of the article, I mean, this is a fluke, okay? Let's do another article. I was looking at this, like, I cannot find any mistakes. Another, no mistakes. Said, okay, I'm going to feed this to other AI agents. Maybe they find mistakes. No mistakes. So after a while of back and forth, contrasting between different AI models, I was able to do 100% validated by different AI models and myself of an extraction of very complicated articles in order to bring them into this one. So you can see so far like 547 records of that 150 different replications. And I would say I went over, I don't know, 10, 20 of those, and I can find no mistakes in those. After I had this, I'm just like, okay, so now I have this very, very complex structure. I don't even know how I can comprehend this. What can I do with this in order to bring this to the mass audiences? What kind of insights can I gain for this? But once again, I was able to do this iterative model of, let's just work with an AI. So I told the AI, here's the database. This is what the database means. This is how it was collected. Plan together with me, what is it that we can extract from that? And it created the most amazing R markdown for me, where for the first time, after 7 years, I was able to see a lot of meta-level insights that I've not seen when I was just doing the individual projects. And all this was over a course of developing the system that does the iteration for the coding a couple of days, and then the one that was needed in order to aggregate this whole thing and have some insights from that, another half a day. And this is work that by 6 experienced coders and myself, we were not able to complete within a year. We gave up on this. So I think this is like a really amazing promise of what can be done. Many times we work on Google Docs, and Google Docs does not have good version history. It's very difficult to do track changes between different instances of the version history. So when we have a lot of people working on the same Google Doc and I want to compare 2 of them, usually what I would do, go to version history, download this version, go to Word, and then say, okay, please compare these 2 documents, and then have the track changes and save that. Instead of that, I vibe coded this kind of thing that automatically shows me all the version history. Automatically, I can select 2 of the versions, automatically takes the 2 documents, compares them, and then creates the track changes for me. This is just like an example of a lot of things that you can do. So whatever your frustration is with the dirty work that you're doing in your everyday life, you can really automate this. So at the beginning, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but as you do this more, as you increase your skill, as you update your AGENTS.MD, as you try to deploy things or share things with others, you'll learn a little bit more. And then at the end, you'll be able to deliver first for yourself and then for others all kinds of things. The last thing that I will show, and this is kind of an invitation for you to alpha test things for me. The first alpha test was not that great. Is this? It's called CitationGuard. So this is this recite work kind of thing. So if you want, you can go in there and sign up with your Google account. So this is just an example of something that I first did for myself and then sharing with others. Basically, what it does is you can link it to a Google Doc. Or upload a manuscript, a PDF, or a docx. And then what it would do, it would process this for you. So for example, if we go here, this is a Google Doc that I'm currently doing and we need to resubmit next week. So basically, I tell it reload from the Google Doc, and then it automatically processes a bunch of stuff for me. So for example, citation matching, how many cited references. So you can see the citations that require reviewing. Was this cited well or not well? Which ones are missing or not missing? So whenever the student does something, then I can very easily just reload from the Google Map and see whether this was addressed or not. So this is how it started. But you can see it does a DOI validation. So maybe it has 4 citations that don't have a DOI where it suggests a DOI for you. Any retractions? So no retractions. It helps me to do all the grammar and spelling in one place instead of me having to run export from Google Doc, upload this, or initiate Grammarly, or I don't know, whatever your grammar check is. Now it's like embedded in here using all kinds of APIs with services that do grammar checking. Statistical verification is the stat check thing. So it looks at all the different stats and checks them. So for example, here it tells me your student reported an F using these, they get degrees of freedom. This is the statistic. And it should be 0.101 p-value, but actually you wrote 0.131. So it just like helps me see everything in one spot. Whether anything has an expression of concern, anything was published in predatory journals, doing a effect size and a p-curve. So just like looking at this one paper, how the p-value distribution. So it's not so useful for one paper, but one of the things that you can do over here is upload several manuscripts. So for example, you can take all of the publications in psychological science, for example, for a certain author or a certain year, and then p-curve this in order to see whether there's good support, good evidence in there or not. And then you can decide which one of the statistics you want to include or not include. So this is really a proof of concept of what's possible. This meta check, and they're working with humans on an R package that does all kinds of verifications, and then they announced this on Blue Sky. From the moment that they announced this to the time that I delivered this in CitationGuard was 10 minutes. So I just told please create a plugin for this, and then you can see already here that there's like, it also flagged this inconsistency. It looks at the references, it looks at non-significance, effect size validation. So everything that they included over there, I can very easily put in here. So if you want, you can use this. If you have some ideas on other things that you want to have embedded in there, if you want to collaborate on this, if you want to collaborate on other things, I'm very open to whatever direction you want to take, whatever it is that we're doing with vibe coding, to try and do better science. This is like very, very quickly about all the journey that I've been through and some of the things that I've played with. Lots of advanced uses, a lot of things that I did not mention, things that you can do in order to do better. If you want to keep following up on this, if you want to have some kind of discussion, I'm very happy to. So never hesitate. If there's something on your mind, something that you want to discuss with me, I will definitely reply. And very open to first helping, supporting, and then also if something on your mind for collaborations or some things that you want to try out, then let me know.
What's the contact to contact you?
Yeah. So my website is, you can just do Gilad Feldman .org, which is my name, and then my website, and you can contact me through here, through Blue Sky, LinkedIn, whatever it is that you feel like. Any of the channels is okay, and you're welcome to visit Austria.